Hi, everyone. My name is Ebie McFarland. I'm a publicist at Essiential Broadcast Media, a company I founded in 2007, primarily focusing on entertainment industry, both in country, rock, and venue. I'm very honored today to be moderating the Stand By Your Brand panel. We have some excellent speakers curated, so allow me to introduce. Immediately to my right is Paul Jankowski, the New Heartland founder and CEO, and also artist manager. Paul is a recognized brand builder, a thought leader, a speaker, and a Forbes contributor on marketing. I have personally worked with him where he has created culturally relevant brand alliances with an artist such as Whiskey Myers and Treaty Oak, as well as Chase Rice and Mountain Dew, and very honored to have him here. I don't know if Monta is in the audience this afternoon, but he is a University of Tennessee guy, so Monta, that fun fact is for you. He lives just outside of Nashville with his wife and children, so thank you, Paul, for being here. Our next guest in the middle, Miss Erica Wilkerson, is the Senior Manager of Multicultural and Youth Marketing for NASCAR, joining us today from Charlotte, flying in just to be here today. You may ask, what does that mean? That is primarily focusing on youth initiatives in the sport. She also manages NASCAR Kids, the sport's first national youth program, and oversees the company's initiatives to engage and attract African American fans and customers. Erica has over 10 years of experience in sports, including operations, marketing, and promotions. And prior to this, she, I don't know how you did this, managed international and domestic travel for collegiate teams such as NCAA, preseason, postseason bowl games, and Final Four tournaments. You don't sleep. Thank you so much for being here today. I don't think this gentleman to our far right needs any introduction. I think if you're here at CRS, you certainly know him. But you may not know Mr. Nate Deaton with KRTY San Jose, VP and General Manager, has lived in San Jose since he was 12. He rose into marketing in '98 and was named General Manager in 2006 and has just been killing it ever since. He is one of the nicest guys in country radio, and when working with any new artist and they say, oh, Nate Deaton's gonna play our song, I'm like, oh, we better have our stuff ready to roll, because after Nate signs on, I think it's such an indicator of what's to come for that artist. A true champion for new artists. You're an A&R guy, and you help with musical discovery and breaking artists. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm glad it was raining, because that means we didn't lose you to the golf course.
That's not funny. That's not funny.
So we're here today to talk about a brand. And it's one of the things that a new artist, when they first come and sit down with us, we kind of ask them, well, what do you want to be known for? What do you stand for? And I think anybody that scrolls on Instagram sees the caption of, oh, that's so on brand, or, oh man, ooh, did you see that? That's gonna hurt their brand. There go their partnerships. And we all have an idea of what's being said when you see those captions or see that framing. But let's start with something really simple. Let's define the word brand. I think on the screens we may have a definition for you guys. A brand is a collection of perceptions that create an emotional connection. Read that again. A brand is a collection of perceptions that create emotional connections. You connect with it. You trust it. It's Dawn dishwashing soap and saving the penguins. It's GoPro and Red Bull. If you're on my artist website, you'll see it's Walker Hayes and Applebee's. They work together because they make sense. They elicit a response that is complementary of what each other stand for. And so in 2022, when everything elicits some type of emotional response, how do brands and talent come together authentically? And for that, Paul, let's start with you.
That's a great setup. Yeah, everyone talks about brand, and I love that definition. We use that all the time. How do you know what you're going to do if you don't know what you're trying to do, what the definition is? So we start there at the basic level. hundreds of perceptions, right? We all generate perceptions. And the way we work with brands on the New Heartland Group side of things and our clients, we usually work from the brand side. And we work with, the first thing we look at when we bring in an artist partnership are their other core values. Do the brand's core values and the artist's core values align? It sounds like a weird place to start because everyone's kind of up here most of the time. We don't do it that way. We go directly to the talent, directly to the management and say, when it gets tough out there and stuff gets tough, Ebie knows, everyone knows, when these brand partnerships kind of hit a rough patch, it really comes down to who you are in the dark. It comes down to your core values and do those really align. So we've done dozens of deals from Beyonce and Taylor and Luke Bryan and just tons of deals, and they always start at the brand values and the values connection. And
that brings you to recommending an artist for a brand, is knowing the brand's values and then going out and seeking that through the artist relationships, management, agencies, and as an artist manager yourself, kind of looking at those core brand identities. Erica, moving over to you. You're in probably the most branded world of NASCAR. What do you look for when aligning with new sponsors or vendors or brands?
Yeah, good question. So at NASCAR, I'm sure everyone out here has a perception of what you think NASCAR is, or how you perceive it to be when you attend the race. And so with that, our sponsorship team, our leadership team, we're looking for companies that align with our core values, that align with our goals, that's going to be inclusive, that's going to make everyone feel, although this brand, I may not know it, I'm going to be familiar with it. And so for us, we're looking for things that are going to challenge the status quo. We're not the same NASCAR that we used to be. We're moving into a new direction. We're going to look for a thing that challenges us internally to find ways to attract that new fan, that younger demographic, while also being authentic to our core fans that have been there for generations. So it's a challenge that we're willing to take, but we are always trying to find a way to be innovative.
And I feel like in your time there, you've really progressed the narrative forward in forward-thinking alliances and brands, and I think we'll get into that here in a little bit. Nate, your station is a brand. So when programming your station, how important is it for the shows that you put on and the artists that you bring in? How important is it for you to know what they stand for, or for them to be able to tell you what they stand for?
Well, and that's exactly it. KRTY is the brand, and it's made up of all these other parts, and all these other parts are real living people. They're artists, they're advertisers, they're listeners. So, and our whole brand is based upon new music, new artists, new music. It's music discovery. That's all we have. We live in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is the height of innovation. So that's what we try to do, and we have a relatively elaborate process, but whenever someone brings a new artist, we have them play. We go to meet them, we talk to them, we find out, and so many times, and anyone who's in the label business in this room knows that there are plenty of times when the first single is not anywhere close to our favorite, but we look at 3 or 4 or 5 songs deep. Is this going to be something that's going to carry on? Can they play? Are they going to embarrass themselves in public? And you never know, but if they embarrass themselves in front of us, or quite frankly, if we embarrass ourselves in front of them, it might not work for the long run. So it's, when you tune into KRTY, we don't want you to hear country music. Obviously, that's what you're going to hear. We're a country station, and we can have a definition on another panel what that means. But the fact of the matter is we want you to hear KRTY music. We want you to hear music and artists that we've gotten behind, that we believe one day is going to headline a stadium.
And I think you ask so many great questions and really get to know the talent, which helps identify when you can book them and put them in front of your listeners at shows. When is it going to mean something to them? Is it on the first single or is it on the second? And you're always so great about, I think, keeping that timing in mind with those opportunities. And
the timing used to be a lot shorter between the first single and the second single, but yeah, that's a different story.
And Paul, Nate's asking questions, Erica's asking questions, but you kind of, on the artist side, end up asking the initial questions that end up defining what the artists stand for because of these alliances. What do you look for to figure out if an artist and a brand mesh?
So coming from the brand side, and lots of folks in this room are probably trying to figure out, how do I get those brand deals? It makes so much sense that I would align with this brand. So really, as the buyer, I guess you could say, from the brand side, we start with what the brand is really trying to do, what the brand objectives are. And if you're trying to sell yourself to a brand, understand you need to be thinking about what they're wanting first versus what you're wanting. We see a lot of times artists will come to us and say, I need to pay for my tour bus, and what. The brand doesn't really care about that, right? So you want to start with once we establish there's a core value connection, we want to look at the business objectives. What is that brand trying to do? And by the way, our brands, we've been with PepsiCo since 2006, so Lipton, Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Fritos. They're about 18 months ahead of where we are in the music side of things, right? So we got to understand the planning process. And again, how do the business objectives work together? I think I'm going to give some examples later on that. So think of it from a core values first, business objectives second.
And Erica, in your field, you've had to navigate some interesting objectives and accomplishments and new practices and policies, and do so in real time while having live events. That is I think before we came out here, she said it's a traveling circus in a different city every weekend. How do these new practices and policies in real time directly impact your company's brand identity?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most well-documented and probably well-known experience is that we banned the Confederate flag from all of our events, and we're proud of it. We really are. It's something that was offensive to a certain demographic of people, or even just those who wanted to be offended, right? And that's not what we are. NASCAR is about it being an inclusive environment and welcoming for all. And if something stands in the way of that, we're not afraid to remove it in order to attract new people. And if for those that are offended by it, coming from our leadership, I can say this respectfully, have a good day. It's totally fine. So I think for us, though, we've done so much in that trying to grow and attract new fans. I know I focus on Hispanic and African American consumers, and I have an example to show in a few about that and what we've done over the past year. And we're still growing. We're still finding new ways to do that. And I think we align ourselves with companies that are also trying to do that. Do you want to?
Well, I was going to say, I think we actually have a video that shows a little bit of that progress in a lot of different ways. If you'll pay attention, you'll see it's not just national media campaigns, it's influencer, TikTok, it's across the board. So if we could play the video, please.
Drivers, start your engines, let's go!
De los creadores de la pelea más chafa, pues estamos aquí en la carrera más chafa traída por NASCAR.
Daniel Suárez, bienvenido a Fox Deportes.
It just became something that I was like, wow, everybody needs to come and see a race in real life, and I was hooked.
It was a surreal moment, being able to meet him. I was kind of shaking, being able to meet my hero I've been supporting.
Hispanic Heritage Month is a time to celebrate Hispanic and Latin American individuals.
Black History Month is an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans.
Bienvenidos a la última vuelta, mi querido Tony Rivera. ¿Cómo estás?
You think you can beat us in kart racing?
With one hand. When did it hit you that you were the black face of NASCAR?
Yo soy tradición, con los colores de muchas banderas. Yo soy un movimiento. Yo soy NASCAR.
It's your boy Jay Mendoza, and we're here in Daytona Beach.
I'm Alvin Kamara for NASCAR. Let's get to work.
NASCAR, I want all the smoke. Yeah, all the smoke. When the Daytona can't see me no more.
Voy a estar gritando.
Hey, what's up? It's your girl, Sweetie.
I'm coming in fast. First place, you coming in last. I'm hitting that gas. I'm hitting that, my body.
NASCAR and Eric Emanuel for this dope pair of shorts.
I'm hitting that gas.
tomorrow's finally the Daytona 500. I've been looking forward to this race, guys, all month.
Drivers, start your engine!
You been on a skybox? What? Look around.
Gee! Bubba Wallet.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Getting the day started here.
Me acaba de llegar un mensaje de que la NASCAR regresa a Daytona.
I'm coming in fast. First place, you coming in last. I'm hitting that gas. I'm hitting that ass. I'm coming in fast. First place, you coming in last. I'm hitting that gas. I'm hitting that.
What's happening? It's your man Big Ticket doing big things, and it's race weekend in Atlanta, and you know I'm excited.
NASCAR regresa a Las Vegas este domingo.
NASCAR is rolling into town with some high-intensity playoff action.
La NASCAR está de regreso en el Texas Motor Speedway.
The engines are revving, baby. NASCAR is rolling into town.
It makes it look like my job is fun.
And that engagement is real, but it's also shifting a subtle narrative about the brand online in a cool factor that I think could have been written off had progression not taken place. Can you talk a little bit about how some of these partnerships came about? Is it you seeking talent out? And do you see more alignment in the country music world in the future of NASCAR?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of them are just thoughts from my head, little brainchild, like the Brotherhood series. I thought we should definitely showcase our African-American pit crew members more, and it just so happened to tee up with Black History Month. But as far as I think what relates to right now is the radio integrations and the media partnerships. You saw Tyler Yahweh. Most people probably didn't know him. He had a hot song coming out, and our entertainment, marketing, and music team, we said, can you change the lyrics a little bit? And so we worked with them, we partnered and collabed, and then I did my part, which is get influencers involved, and we sold the song a little bit more, pushed out and amplified the race. And then I say, again, the radio markets, we do that often. If a race is coming here, June 26th, Nashville Super Speedway, or anywhere. We race all over at a moving circus. We want to work with those local radio talents and local people because we want them to have a good experience at the racetrack and then tell their audience. So it looks fun. It really is fun. It's a lot of work, but we're happy to continue that, and especially want to engage with new artists and country radio artists. No one's off topic. We talk about making sure you stick with your brand and don't piss someone off, but if you don't piss someone off, we're happy to have you at NASCAR.
And I think it's a diversification and an inclusion that people are striving for, but a lot of times maybe do thinking, oh, I'll check this box. But when you make it organic and fun, it reaches beyond even that. There's a subtle, not so overt on the nose kind of undertone to that. And just congrats, because it's been impressive to watch. Paul, a lot of that lifestyle and the alliance that we just saw in the recap video from NASCAR, putting the brand where the fans are. Talk a little bit about that versus trying to chase.
So you guys know, our whole thing is helping brands understand the middle of the country, what we call the new heartland, Midwest, Southwest, Southeast. There's a shared set of core values, there's culture, there's lifestyle activities. So we're down here waving our little flag for the last 18 years and going, brands, you're missing the point. Hey, Mountain Dew, the place I see most people grabbing a Dew is at the C-store on the way to the lake or the woods. Anybody agree with that, right? So finally, hey, listen, take your big data, that's great, use it as a guide, but let's get real and let's get where your customer is living their lives. So we do a lot of lifestyle connections, right? And so we created this thing called Get Out and Do, which is their outdoors pillar. So now it was, thankfully, really got a lot of traction. It's now one of their core pillars alongside NBA and action sports, right? Is this outdoors idea, hunting, fishing, lake life, trails, all those kinds of things. And it's really about the culture of getting outdoors. So that's the other thing. We talked about values. We talked about business, alignment with business strategy. Let's talk about lifestyles. As you're trying to, either as an artist or a manager or as a station, trying to attract these brands. That's how we do it.
And Nate, if I can go a little off script and ask you, as shows are returning, I think on average, annually, you average, 50 when it's a non-COVID year that you guys put on with the station. What are you able to do as far as integrating the brand messaging into those shows? Does a Chase Rice having a deal with Mountain Dew, for instance, bring any added value to your station locally?
Well, the beauty of what we all do, those of us who have radio stations, is you have brand ambassadors all over everything, and that's just it. If you see Chase Rice or Luke Bryan or Daniel Bradbury or anybody else out there representing a brand, that's a brand advertisement for your radio station. It's another point of contact for, geez, I really think that this person's interesting and they're aligned with this brand. Where do I go to find out more about them? Well, that's our radio station. And so here that brings people to us to present what their primary business is, which is their sound. And that therefore represents the sound of our station. That we have a very successful songwriter series that we do at a winery, and the brand of that it's a songwriter series. And there's a great amount of our audience, and an audience anywhere, that doesn't know the names of the songwriters. So the brand is the songwriter shows, and that's what sells the tickets. And once they see one, then they want to buy them all because it's the most amazing thing. We have an amazing music format, and we have great music coming from this town, and all those people are out there promoting their music, but it comes back to us.
And it's interesting from a station standpoint to even an entity and company as big as NASCAR when you're looking at those touch points. Erica, how did you guys take us back to kind of this rebrand of NASCAR and saying and showing what you guys stand for? How did those conversations start?
Yeah, it starts pretty simple, right? This is where we're moving forward. This is how we're going to start doing our business. We look, again, our core values of being courageous, innovative, driven, and we ask brands or partners or potential partners, do you want to go on this journey with us? Do you want to find yourself, attracting new people? And if the answer is yes, then we welcome it by all means. We are finding ways to, I would say, put ourselves in non-traditional media outlets, as you probably saw in the video, but we still stick to that general market, our core fans. There's no way that we're going to move forward without everyone being involved and being part of it. So we do, the non-traditional licensing approach. We are in fashion, not just music. We're in other ways, because fashion, as we know, is the key to probably selling your brand of an artist. And so if it's you wearing a NASCAR jacket in your music video, or if you see the Post Malone video involving our drivers, we welcome it. We want that type of integration, because then it seems authentic. And then hopefully the artist is, going about and saying, I think I really like NASCAR because I had an interaction with a driver or a pit crew member or someone that works at NASCAR. So, yeah.
I wanted to kind of add on to that. Switching hats, we manage Danielle Bradbury, and talking about brands, talking about fashion. Again, if you're an artist or a manager, we work with Danielle to build a brand. She is an artist first. Her music, she's got one of the best voices on the planet. But she is so much more than just music, and fashion's a huge part of her lifestyle. And so we've got these verticals growing, these lanes growing with her as a brand, and we start with a brand strategy and all the other things we talked about earlier. But to kind of riff off of what Erica was talking about, that's how we're building our own artist brand.
And I think as a PR liaison for our artists, we have a lot of artists who maybe come to us with a great song, but maybe their producer picked that song out for them and they didn't write it, but they identify with it. Well, let's start with, what do you identify with? Does it point towards part of your origin story? What does it say about you? What does it feel like? How does it feel live? And as you start to kind of peel those layers back, lifestyle elements start to shine through, and then that's really where, even if it is an influence type setting, social media, TikTok campaign, something organic, I've seen firsthand those kind of moments pop into a sustainable brand deal. Paul, can you talk about kind of catching that lightning in a bottle and capitalizing on those moments for talent?
That's such a great segue into, we talked about lifestyle and all the other things, but we signed Chase on behalf of Mountain Dew as an influencer, not as an artist, because he's an avid outdoor enthusiast, right? So we didn't get tickets, we didn't get anything to do with his music on the front end of that, because he's a lifestyle influencer. So think of it that way. Think of it a little more broadly. As an artist, your music is certainly your path, but there's so many other pieces to what your life is about that could be valuable to partner with a brand. Whiskey Myers was another deal we did with you and Treaty Oak. Their name is Whiskey Myers. We did a deal with whiskey. That wasn't a stretch, right? But it had to be the right whiskey. It had to be the right connection. And the ethos of both of those brands really came together in a beautiful partnership. Not an endorsement, but a true partnership.
And Nate, in seeing these come together and seeing the artist brand expand when other brands start to take notice, in your ecosystem of programming the station, do these moments matter? Are these indicators for you of kind of the trajectory of their career? Because you are truly one of the first to kind of tap in from an A&R and musical discovery standpoint and say, I see this, I know what's coming, I'm betting on this. So how do these brand deals add value from a station standpoint when you're looking at new talent? Because it's very competitive.
Well, and again, kind of like we were talking about, I think that everything in a radio station comes back to the branding that you do. So if you're known as a radio station that breaks new artists, we have a club. I talked about the Songwriter Series, but we also have a club series. And the club series over the years has seen everyone from Taylor Swift to Lady A opening for other artists. But once you have somebody who's out there, Chase Rice sells more tickets, relatively speaking, to the number of hits he's had than a lot of people do because he is this brand ambassador. When we look at a new artist, we bring them into the club and we sell tickets in the club based upon our brand of bringing the best new artists. Now, eventually they have to deliver. I always say that a song can be a hit for us in the old adage of it's a hit if we say it's a hit, but eventually they have to expand. And if you invest in a new artist and all of a sudden you're seeing that artist on a billboard, on TV, on a TikTok, tied in with NASCAR, tied in with Mountain Dew, then your belief in that artist is once again justified and rectified to your fans. So the next time you do it, they're going to go, well, this guy must be something because the last guy was. So it all builds up to, it doesn't do any good. If I wanted to build local stars, I have plenty of local, well, I don't really, but we have plenty of local bands. That's not going to do us any good for our brand. We need those brands to establish nationally.
And as so many, I have this conversation all the time within our office and with freelance writers, there are so few people that have the bandwidth to cover country music like they used to. Now, there'll be a hit on today's show. Sure, that's wonderful to get if it's the right time and it's surrounded by some other things. Maybe it creates a conversation for a day and your artist profile pops a certain number of consumptions, streams, downloads, yada yada. But if it's a one-off and it's not propped up, it can be kind of a wasted opportunity. And there are so few writers that are actually writing about country in a meaningful way that the artists have kind of taken to their own platforms and with brands to tell stories direct to consumer without the media contextualizing it. And these brands, to some degree, when the alignment is really synergistically aligned, it's an incredible kind of reverse cultural moment and feed into media. Media then is catching up with kind of the story that's being orchestrated by the artist and the brand, and that's really when a moment can pop and kind of transcend, and that's when you get all the wonderful trending on and news coverage then writing about it, and it's a different model. It's feeding from the bottom up instead of from the top down. And Paul, maybe I'll start with you. From a brand standpoint, how important is that creativity in the announcement, in the content that's shared? And then Eric, I'm coming right to you after this.
Well, there's a couple things. I don't believe in chasing trends. I believe in creating trends. And I think the word that's coming to my mind, especially with Erica, and what we're talking about is evolution of a brand. So you might have an idea. Listen, a rocket doesn't go straight to the moon, right? It gets course corrected along the way. So brands, artists, you got to evolve. Look at Danielle Bradbury, walked off the stage at 16 years old. Watched her new collection come out March 4th. See the difference. It's beautiful. It's amazing to see the evolution of the brand. What NASCAR has done. You know, when we release a product, we had 80 pieces of content ready to go before Danielle comes out. It's the same with brands. We do so much influencer work on the brand side that we have to have so much content ready to go even when we don't know how it's going to be used. So you can't create too much content.
And Erica, how much of that creativity is NASCAR driving versus how much is collaborative?
You know, it's funny because we have a lot of creators in-house, and we have these innovation sessions, and maybe we should take a note from Nate, but we sit down and we discuss things, and very similar, right? We try not to chase a trend, but you find yourself sometimes like, that was so cool, I kind of want to bring it back. I mean, they're saying is like there's nothing new under the sun, but we're finding ways to, again, get partners involved, from Busch Beer to Toyota. And I'll mention, actually, Busch Beer just came out with a new program. It's called Accelerate Her. And they're so committed to diversifying our sport that they are backing about 6 or 7 female drivers fully for their ride, and that is phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if you guys know how expensive racing is, but for them to say, I'm going to commit to these 7 females and put our everything behind them without really knowing their brand, a few of them we know, that shows that they're really committed to they want them to be authentic. They want them to be themselves so that we can know who the true organic Tony Breidinger is. She's an up-and-coming female driver who's the first Arab American to race. So for us, the creativity will come a little bit later. So now we're finding ways to get influencers involved or talk about, that Busch Beer brand and how that can now transcend to some type of content that we'll see. Maybe there'll be some Mountain Dew. No, there won't be Mountain Dew or Coca-Cola. But I would say that that wasn't a dig. That was like, I just had to remind myself. But but maybe other brands are watching other brands to see how they're working. But the creativity is all inside of us, and we want to hear from the artists. We really do. We want to hear. I say the artist, the racer. I've been around you guys long enough. I really want to hear from the racer. What do you care about? You put on the brand of Bass Pro Shops. That's because Martin Truex Jr. really enjoys being outside and fishing and hunting. That makes sense to him, and we follow suit, definitely.
And we've got a few more minutes before we open it up for questions. Let's maybe approach the cringeworthy topic of what happens if an artist or a racer does something that brings unwanted attention or headlines. What is that process like behind the scenes from a conversation standpoint, and what can artists do to show you what they really stand for instead of tell you what they're not?
So first of all, we're sitting next to probably the most effective, best publicist and brand builder on the planet, and Ebie McFarland. So she didn't get her due because every artist you follow, she has probably touched at some point from a PR standpoint. So it goes back to us with core values. We're going to mitigate our risk by working with people that we don't think are going to screw up. But then we throw in the human factor. We all screw up. So our philosophy is when you screw up or if you screw up, own it, fix it, move on, and rip off the rearview mirror, man, because the people that are trolling you and canceling you are not realizing that they're human too. So I don't really care about them. Like Erica said, I'm going to use this, have a good day, right?
That's the polite way to say it. I'll mention for drivers. I mean, you guys have seen us in the headlines. I won't bring up names, but again, the human factor. We do have rules. That is part of being part of a governing body, a sport, is that you sign a contract with us, right? I don't know how it works in the music industry, but I would assume the same, maybe not, there's not a morale clause. But I would say that, you as an individual, you have to make decisions. You're an artist or you're a racer. You want to make sure that what you do on TikTok doesn't affect how the rest of your income or whatever your lifestyle will go. But for us, we have our rules. We have what we, a guideline. We have a committee, and we review it. Our leadership reviews it. Your owners, because as a driver, right, we don't own our drivers. Let me say that. We don't own our drivers. We don't really have so much say into what they can do. They're owned by their teams, a Hendrick Motorsports, a Joe Gibbs Racing, a Team Penske. Those teams employ the drivers. And just like your company, you can't really go out and go crazy without some type of consequences. And that's one thing that we make sure we let people know. And when it gets to a point where it's so public, it's up to NASCAR to truly put their foot down and say, either we're going to make an example out of you, or we're going to realize you're a human, understood. You're still going to make an example out of you, but it may be a little lesser than probably, taking you away from racing completely, because we understand that racing is passionate. Like, you're passionate about it, you care about it, and we don't want to take that away from someone if they made a mistake that was just one time. If it looks like it's a trend, it's habitual, it's probably not going to be a good conversation. It may be a have a good day.
I mean, I think that there's a certain amount of pressure exerted by an audience when something, I mean, we all know the Morgan Wallen incident of last year, and there's a certain amount of pressure exerted by an audience, and you have to look at what's going on. You have to look at what's going on around here and react to it, and then how you react to it is what establishes your brand. But by the same token, it's not a life sentence. And so you just gotta do what's right. And anyone who's in any business gets, especially nowadays, gets a whole bunch of emails. And some of them are on point, and some of them aren't. And that's really up to you to decide. I answer every email, even the stupid ones. And if you know me, I can tell you that you're being stupid without it actually saying that. But the point is, I get great joy in some of those, frankly. But the point is that you have to react to the public pressure. And at some point in time, then, once you've reacted to the public pressure, you take a stand and say, this is what we're doing from here. And if you don't like it, then I guess you don't like our brand.
Can I also add just one more thing, is to say that I think one thing NASCAR I've seen is that they truly care about the individual. From media training that we try to do in advance of getting to that point of success, or when you mess up, we also we talk to the individual and we say, you don't have to do this. There's ways out of it, and you may seem like you're stuck in it. You've got to do it forever. It's like, this is my lifestyle, but life is about choices. And if at one point it gets too much, we've got a lot of drivers suffering right now from depression and mental health. We have really taken on the approach of caring about our drivers, caring about our employees as well, and giving them resources. And if people feel like they tell you once, hey, I really can't do it, listen to them. Truly listen and try to find a way to make it adjust and make it happen. And because I just think that's really key to mention as well, is mental health is becoming a really big deal.
Well, and so many of our brand ambassadors, or the artists, are the biggest things in life to these people, to the listeners. And you have to appreciate the fact that, I mean, it's the big deal to them, what these people do day in and day out. It's part of their lifestyle. It's
always incredible. I answer all the emails, even the ones, I don't know what fan lists I'm on, y'all, but I'm George Strait's #1 contact for fans that have a question. And it's incredible when they're in their most dire moments, family members in hospitals, they play their records and they want to just be heard that their lifelong fan of this artist matters. And when you look at the turmoil and unrest of the last few years, I think you were saying this before, and then we kind of laughed, well, what is this? But you said we've just got to give each other a little more grace. And I look at the issue of racism in country music. It's systemic, it's generational. I think now there's no excuse. The Morgan Wallen conversation brought about real change. We're seeing it in writers' rooms, at the barrier of entry. We're seeing it with paid internships. We're seeing it with companies like Diversify the Stage that are allowing for funnels into our business that prior would have been me going, hey, who do you have? And now I'm going, hey, who do you have? And we're all going to be better for broadening that tent.
Well, the last panel I did 2 years ago when we were here in person, and I'll take 30 seconds to congratulate these guys on a great, great event. And the fact that you put these agendas together and put it in person, thank you. Thank you for giving us back CRS, because I'm 28 years, it's still the best freaking thing we do. So thank you. But the last time I was, sorry, that was an aside. The last panel I did was why are there no female artists in the country format? And I stood up here and said, well, it's not true. The fact of the matter is there are, it's just got to be good. We haven't had that conversation in a year because we've got great music for female artists.
Well, we would love to. We've got a few minutes left. Shelley, do we have any questions from the crowd?
Yes, we got one question on the app. Yeah, we've got about a couple minutes left. It's a question for Nate. It says, how do you get all the departments in your building to buy into the station brand? So sales, promotions, programming. How do you get everybody on the same page to gear everything toward the station brand?
Well, we are probably the most integrated radio station you will ever find. My promotion director is right there. My sales manager is right there. And there isn't a single thing that we do at KRTY that isn't done as a group. From listening to music to going to shows to it doesn't work if the old model of sales versus programming or promotions versus sales, it doesn't work. If you don't involve them in the process, they don't buy in. There's no more passionate spokesperson for our product and our brand to our advertisers than Tina. And it's because she lives it and because she's involved in it from the first day they walk in the conference room. So get them involved. They're not that busy. They make you think they are because they like all that. They're not. Have them meet the artist. Have them be a part of the initial new artist. It makes a world of difference in selling.
That's all we've got.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for having us today. Thank you, Paul, Erica, and Nate.